Let's talk about something that we don't say out loud enough. Marriage is hard. Not all relationships take effort. Not, haha, we bicker over the thermostat or directions or what we're going to have for dinner. But hard to where you start doubting your own decisions. Okay. I occasionally wonder, did I make a mistake? And that doesn't mean I'm married to the wrong person. It doesn't mean you're married to the wrong person. It doesn't mean you're with the wrong person. It means it's real. When you start doubting, when you start questioning, when you start looking into what you've done, you have to think about every day waking up, am I in the right place? Am I in the right time? Am I doing it right? Today we're going to unpack why marriage is hard. Not to scare you, not to shame you, but to name it. Okay. Marriage brings stress, anxiety, depression, anger, frustration. It also brings joy and happiness and love and compassion. But when we name something that's bothering us, when we name something that's difficult, it makes it easier to deal with, to contemplate, to work around. And we understand it's difficult. It doesn't mean we're failed. It doesn't mean that we're not a good husband or a good wife or a good whatever. It means we understand we're not alone. It's hard for everybody. Let's start here. When you get married, it's like looking in a mirror. It reflects your best self, sure, but it also reflects your insecurities, your habits, your blind spots, things that you don't notice your spouse might notice, might point out. It shows where you're reactive, where you shut down, where you still carry pain from years ago. It shows all the small details that we don't always think about. It shows the small details that we don't always understand are us. But marriage, especially long-term commitment, pulls things out of you. Okay. And sometimes it's not gentle. It's not sweet. It's not cute. It's not made for TV. You might find yourself snapping over little things like what's for dinner or what you're cooking for dinner or what's wrong when things get hard. You're dealing with stress or anxiety or depression. And instead of talking to your spouse or your loved one about it, you just give up and shut down. Sometimes when you're married or when you're together, you're like, why does this upset me so much? Something small, something innocent, something not that big. I think it's because when we're with someone we love for a long period of time, we're able to let our guard down, and it opens up us to things that we've never dealt with from our past. We're dealing with things that have never healed from when we were a kid or from a younger adult or whatever. We love the idea, though. We get married, Romeo and Juliet, compatibility, right? We're perfect. You find the right person, everything clicks, easy, effortless, destiny. Okay? Star-crossed lovers. But here's the truth. You can be wildly compatible with someone and still struggle. Okay? Because compatibility doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't protect you from growth. It doesn't mean you're always be on the same page. It doesn't mean you're always going to see eye to eye on lots of things. Life pulls you in different directions, right? Career changes, deaths in the family, grief, parenthood, illness, burnout, depression, stress, anxiety. Sometimes life gets in the way of happiness. You're constantly changing. You're constantly evolving. You're constantly growing. And so isn't your partner. And you're doing it while trying to stay connected, right? So you're both growing, but you want to stay connected. And sometimes it's hard. And that's the real trick. Staying close while you're both becoming new every day. Big thing for me. For the longest time, I was the breadwinner. I was the, guy who worked and my wife stayed home. Now she's got a very good career. I'm not the breadwinner. She does 99.9% of the work, the heavy lifting when it comes on the job world. And it's difficult. Difficult for me. I think it's difficult for her. And we haven't found that balance yet. And we've been married a long time, but some days that balance just doesn't work. And I struggle with it, and I think she does too. I think I struggle with it more. So I guess I'm winning that one. But that's the point about this is we're still growing and changing every day. No one gets married. Okay, I didn't get married. If you're watching this and you're married, or if you're in a serious relationship, you don't go into that dreaming about bills, laundry, daycare, after school care, college, all that stuff. Okay, you don't think about that. You think about the love and the romance. But the daily grind is where most marriages and relationships live. And that grind is heavy. Okay, it wears on you. It's not glamorous. It's not Instagrammable. You can't put it on Instagram. It's logistical. It's numbers, facts, dates, times, locations. Who's making dinner? Did that bill get paid? Why is the dog throwing up? Why is the dog sick? Who's taking the dog for a walk at this time? If you're not intentional, if you don't plan some of this stuff, all that love you had buried under to-do lists and tasks and just thoughts of what the next check mark is. You lose the love. That doesn't mean you're falling out of love. It means you're exhausted. It means you're human. You can't have romance and love and, cuddly time if you're overwhelmed with the rest of the world. But here's the thing, love doesn't disappear. It just needs to be unearthed, okay, dug up, consciously together. We all enter marriage with unspoken rules, ideas about how love should work. And we learn these from our parents, from people we see, from people in the community, from TV, from movies, from everything else. Who cooks? Who initiates affection? How conflict is handled? We learn this from everybody around us. A lot of those ideas, they come from when we're kids, from what we saw, didn't see in our family. Some of us want to do the opposite of what we saw. Some of us want to do exactly what we saw. But all of us grow up in an environment and we try to figure out how that environment is going to work for us. The way I parent my kids, I try to do the opposite of what I had as a kid. The way I love my wife, same thing. It doesn't always work, but it's what I've tried to do, and some are good, some are bad. You might think you're being cold. They might think you're being needy, but underneath that is the pain of whatever you grew up in. Old stuff that was never named. And now here you are, trying to navigate two people's histories into one present. Two people's lives joining as one. And that's hard. It's difficult. Some people, they seem like they can do it easily, but most of us can't. Most of us, it's a struggle every day, and we find what works and we do our best with it. And that gets me to the next point. All couples fight. Healthy marriages are not conflict-free. They're repairable. They're talkable. They're real. This morning, my wife and I had a fight about what I was going to make for dinner and how I felt like no one ever liked what I made for dinner at family dinners. And it was a stupid fight. I said, hey, I just feel like you always pick on what I make. And she's like, no, it's just the kids don't even like half the time what you make because you make up these big concoctions and we make up too much of it. And by the end of it, I'm apologizing because I feel like I just attacked her for nothing. Because she's probably right. But that's not our problem. Our problem isn't that we argue. It's how we argue. And whether we can come back after it. Normally, when we fight, resolution comes pretty easily. And by pretty easily, I mean most of the time I realize I'm wrong, or she will apologize, but a lot of times we don't even apologize, we realize we're talking about the same thing, we're just saying it differently. So we kind of come to a understanding. We have to stay curious about each other. even when you're mad, you have to figure out, okay, what makes them, what are they seeing? What are they feeling? What are they experiencing right now? Why are they upset while I'm upset? Are they upset the same reason I am, or did I say something in a way that they took one way and I meant in another? Let's figure this out. And that's called work. Okay, marriage is a lot of work. And if you never learned how to do that, it's not your fault. But it's your responsibility to learn now. Learn on the job, I guess. That's what I had to do. I grew up in a family where the marriage part was kind of crazy, not really great. And I just didn't understand how marriage really worked. And looking back, even though I thought I was doing the opposite of what my parents were doing, a lot of times I still fall back into it. And I think that's what causes a lot of our arguments. So to really connect, to really, even after a fight or before a fight or an argument, you have to really start being vulnerable. You have to let your guard down. You have to admit you're scared or something doesn't feel right. You have to be okay saying, I need your help or I need you. The phrase I'm fine is death to a marriage. Instead of saying what's really going on, instead of saying what's really bothering you, you just say, I'm fine. That's not what really helps. That's not really what grows. But it feels dangerous. Being vulnerable feels dangerous if you've been hurt before, if you've been rejected, if you've been abandoned, if you're raised to believe that emotions were too much. So what do? Well, do what I've done, I guess. I try to protect myself from everything. I put up walls. I wonder, is it okay that I feel alone? Is it okay that I don't want someone to know anything about me? And that's what I've done. I put up these walls, these facades of I'm fine or this is great or whatever else. Instead of just saying, I'm struggling, I'm hurting, I'm exhausted. And that's something I'm still working on. Over the last couple of months, I have realized that I don't let a lot of people in. And by not letting them in, I am hurting myself more than what I think I'm hurting them with letting them in. Because a lot of times I feel like, oh, if I let people know what I'm struggling with, they're not going to want to be near me. And that's kind of silly. Okay. But that, a vulnerability, that feeling safe, that takes time, sometimes a lot of time, and it's slow. Sometimes you feel like you're going backwards. But it happens. You just have to be patient. When I got married, probably whenever you get married or when you have been married or when you're planning on getting married, there's this like fantasy, right? There's, Cinderella type sleeping, the whole fairy tale thing. Our life is going to be perfect when we're together. We're not going to fight. We're going to know what we're going to have for dinner. The kids are going to be great. We know what kind of partner we want. We know what kind of life we want to live. We want to know how we're going to support each other equally and in love, and everything's going to be super awesome. That fantasy dies quickly, sometimes quicker than others. And that's because fantasy is fantasy, not real life. Okay? Not because your love is gone, because life happens. The real world enters your life. And reality is more nuanced, more ordinary, more messy. Okay? When the fantasy dies, you grieve. You're like, oh, I didn't get my Prince Charming. Or, oh, we're not in a relationship that I wanted. I wanted it to be like this. And we start whining and complaining and holding grudges and not feeling loved and wanted. It hurts, right? But here's the secret. The other side, your spouse, your person, they're feeling the same most likely. And that grief between you two that you're holding against each other is hard. It's deep. And if you don't talk about it, It never goes away. Love, real love, is based on, the fantasy love is based on a projection, what we think. Real love is presence, what's actually going on. Truly seeing each other for who you are. You're seeing the person, they're seeing you, and you feel like, flaws and all, they love you. And even though your flaws are big, like mine are pretty big, my wife loves me. So let's end it on this. Marriage is hard. Hard doesn't mean hopeless, right? Hard doesn't mean it's over. It doesn't mean you're broken. Hard doesn't mean you're toxic. Hard doesn't mean you've picked the wrong person. Hard means you're in it, doing the work, growing together. And if you're willing and able to face the hard stuff with honesty, humility, care, what you build might not look like a fairy tale. Okay. Very few of us ever have fairy tales. It'll be more beautiful than that, though. You know why? Because it's real. You're going to wake up next to your person. And like I do when I wake up with my wife or I go to bed with my wife, and I'm going to touch her leg and when I touch her, I know she's mine. Through all the stupid, for better, for worse, richer and very poor, sickness, health, and everything in between, she's there. Now, have we had our struggles? Yes. Will we continue to struggle sometime in the future? Absolutely. But she's mine. And I'm hers. Even when we say stupid things to each other, even when we say something hurtful and we don't even know it's hurtful, even when we fight over what we're doing for dinner, she's mine. And that's the point. Marriage isn't a 1 week, 90-day fiance type deal, or 1 week thing, or 1 month thing, or 1 year thing. It's a life altering thing. You start dating someone, you have the hot feelies for them. The longer you're together, you find each other's quirks and your nuances, and you might say, you know what, I'm still good with this person. I love this person. They say the same about you. And you get married. And even though you've been together, it's still different. And after a while, you realize, okay, person still has some quirks I'm not a big fan of, but you know what? Still. Then you get some kids and a mortgage, car payments, some dogs, some cats. And life gets busy, and for a while you forget why you even married them. Life gets so busy you forget the original point of marrying them. You love them. When you got the kids dragging you down and the dogs need to go to the vet and the cat is puking on the carpet, you forget the point of the person sitting next to you. Sometimes you forget why you love them. They're just a person that lives in the house with you that helps you with the kids. And there's a time for that. It happens to everyone. The point and the end of it all is after all that craziness is done, are you able to sit next to that person in the stillness of the night watching an end of the world movie with zombies, apocalypse, and everything else, and you just look over at them and you just smile? Because that's your person. That's who you love. That's who you respect. And that's who you want to get old and stupid with. That's simple. If today's episode made sense to you, if you're in the middle of something messy, wondering if it's worth it, I just want to say you're not alone. You're not doing it wrong. You're doing the best you can. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for commenting, liking, subscribing, and all that stuff. Yesterday's episode and today's episode kind of go together. being married as much as I have been, as long as I have been with the kids I have, I realize sometimes that kids can overwhelm your marriage. They can overtake what you're doing in your world. The kids are going to go away someday. And then it's going to be you and that person next to you, your wife, your husband, whoever that is. Make sure they know that they're worth it and that they're loved. Even when you're having a day, they're still the person that matters most to you. Until next time, thank you for watching.